Welcome to TV Anthology Reviews. Today we're going to start the series on Black Mirror, where we're going to cover every single episode of the Netflix series Black Mirror. And we're going to start with Season 1, Episode 1, The National Anthem, released on December 4th, 2011. The series originally ran on Channel 4 in Britain for the first two seasons, and then later Netflix picked up the show and rejuvenated it. It's been on Netflix ever since, but you can watch every single episode, including the first two seasons, on Netflix itself. The series was created by Charlie Brooker, and this is really his first series to gain any popularity. He did other things in Britain, such as Charlie Brooker's Screen Wipe, and also 10 O'Clock Live.
Welcome back. Now, the iPad was the device that changed everything, starting with the way wankers draw attention to themselves. Now, Apple's going to change everything again. Here is their supremo, Steve Jobs, thrilling the faithful by unveiling the radical iPad 2.
But he's intimately involved in this series, including being the writer for this first episode. And I have a lot to say about this episode because this is a shocking, you could say, way to kick off the series and isn't really indicative of how the rest of the series is going to be. And I think a lot of people haven't started with episode 1 since it came out in 2011 and it was a British series before getting streamed on Netflix. From what I can remember, Black Mirror seemed to really get popular in season 3 and season 4 a couple years later, but it started all the way back in 2011. And this one's about Prime Minister Michael Callaway, who has Princess Susanna get kidnapped and held for ransom, and the demands that this kidnapper makes to have her released are, you could say, absolutely disgusting. And already, right off the bat, the first couple minutes, we get the biggest problem with this episode. You'll notice the production values are good, the acting is good for the most part, and there's some style, especially at the end, where they show these kind of flash scenes. You also get a lot of commentary on the human condition, and them talking about social media, referencing things like YouTube and Twitter. But the problem with this episode is the thing that the kidnapper wants Prime Minister to do is to sleep with a pig on national television and broadcast it for everyone, and then he will let the princess go. This is such a dumb and unrealistic scenario. With just a few tweaks, this episode would be twice as good. If they had him commit suicide, that would make more sense. If they had him do a duel to the death on live television, that would be better. If they had him cut off his arm, that would have been better. Anything besides commit a illegal and disgusting act with an animal. This is, on one hand, played for laughs, and then also we're supposed to take it seriously too. And the commentary on this episode is absolutely retarded. It's trying to make the point that people are voyeuristic, and they will watch anything if it involves a celebrity or, in this case, the Prime Minister. In fact, we see at the end of the episode that before he's about to do this act, which he does do, and they show way too much of, another giant problem with this episode, people are gathering around at bars and smashing drinks together and high-fiving each other as they're watching this act on television because people are voyeuristic and people want to see disgusting acts. But this is not very realistic.
It's an official announcement. In a few minutes, the Prime Minister will perform an indecent act on your screen. This is in accordance with the kidnapping.
They're trying to do a commentary on terrorism and how groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS have released videos to the public and people online have watched these videos. But what you don't see is ISIS videos being broadcast on bars with people high-fiving each other as they're watching beheadings or killings. And that's where this episode fails. Nobody would actually gather around with a bunch of their friends and watch a bestiality video, even if it involved someone famous. This is not something that would ever actually happen, and they do a few shots of a more realistic scenario where they show a guy watching TV in his bedroom and then secretly recording this act. That would make a lot more sense. It is more realistic to what we've seen with the release of cartel videos or terrorist videos. People watch it privately by themselves and usually don't talk about it with anyone else, not high-fiving each other at the bar. Have I mentioned that? So at first, Michael Callaway does not immediately agree to this. He does at the end, but he has some other things he wants to try first before he agrees to do this terrible act live on television. And we see shots of newsrooms where they're trying to figure out whether to run this story or not. They're told not to run it at first, but of course, it gets released on the internet, this hostage video, and then it gets posted on YouTube by the kidnapper. And already it's out there, so the news agencies start covering it and start broadcasting the demands that this kidnapper has.
Stake here, we follow procedure.
My timeline consists 100% of viewers asking why we're not covering it.
No one else has broken rank, not the Beeb, not Sky, not...
I hear Facebook's coverage is pretty comprehensive.
Get that?
The episode picks up halfway through place where a lot of episodes end up failing and being a little boring. They'll have good beginnings and end, but the middle falters. That's actually not the case with this. I'd say it's the opposite. The middle is quite good, where it seems like they might actually catch the kidnapper, and they have a SWAT team, or as the British call it, the Specialist Firearms Command, SEO-19. Yeah, I like the term SWAT better. I think we got it right in the United States. The SEO-19 swoops break into this building where they think that the princess is being held. Of course, this ends up being a red herring, and they don't find her there. In fact, they find a mannequin mocking the fact that they thought that they had found the kidnapper's location. This part is quite good. You get a little bit of action, and it's, once again, shot very well. The budget on this episode is extremely high, which is why it takes them so long to release episodes. Since 2011, Black Mirror has only released 33 episodes, and they're still releasing ones to this day. So, compared to the other series that we've covered, where they do 23 episodes in a year or a year and a half, they take a lot of time with these, and they don't release the budgeted episodes, but people have speculated it's hundreds of thousands of dollars for each one. And it does seem like some episodes like Hate in a Nation could possibly cross the $1 million mark. But then again, it's Britain. Things are done a lot cheaper over there. They're not filming in LA. There's a lot of actors in this episode, but the characters that exist in this episode are really there to just be holdovers for the social commentary. A lot of them aren't given names or fleshed out. They're the voyeuristic people that are looking at the TV screen and cheering. We have a scene at a hospital with a bunch of nurses, male and female, gathering around watching the TV screen and once again cheering and having a great time. I mean, apparently this is just the funniest thing that's ever happened. Princess gets kidnapped. The kidnapper supposedly cuts off her finger, which we later learned was someone else's finger. This is all funny and hilarious. This is all great, and people are just having the time of their lives. Once again, a very unrealistic view of how it would actually happen, since we've had many instances in America and Britain where people have been kidnapped by terrorists. People are not jumping up and down and saying it's funny and hilarious.
Would they use a female pig?
It's on the list. List of rules at the end of the video. Specifies camera angles and things. Like Dogma 95. It's not like Dogma 95. Exactly like.
What's Dogma 95?
So, as you can tell, I don't like this episode. There are other episodes of Black Mirror I like a lot more, and I think this is a bad way to kick off the series, but we'll read some reviews since this is actually one of the higher rated episodes. Let's see if I'm just missing the British Monty Python humor. No, that's an insult. There's plenty of sketches of Monty Python that are funny. This one isn't. The tone is also quite inconsistent. It goes between people cheering and laughing to a serious kidnapping video, and then at the end we get a moody and dreary ending where he does go through with the act, feels sick about it, but the kidnapper does release the princess. In fact, he actually released the princess before the act even occurred, making this all just a giant social experiment. If you kidnap someone and make demands, will they do it? And will everyone around be watching it on TV, as opposed to, actually looking for the princess? And we get some nice poetic shots after they get past the disgusting subject matter, which I won't show or really even discuss in detail because as I said, they show way too much of it. This is a hard R-rated series, and this episode is definitely pushing the envelope. I think if this was done in America, there would be more tact, maybe, but who knows. And the amazing commentary is that the princess was released before he went through with the act 30 minutes before, and she's just wandering around outside, but nobody's there to see her because everybody's watching this act on television or on their phones, or at a bar, or at a hospital. They've just been actually looking for the princess and just going along with their everyday lives. They would have found her before he actually performed this act. Does that really make you think? No, it doesn't make me think. It makes me get very, very angry. I hate this episode. I'm going to give it a 2, just because I don't think it's fair to give it like a 1. Like, it's somewhat watchable at parts, and it is well produced. And I really think if they just changed it from an animal act to, like I said, fight to the death, cut your arm off, even if he was to walk around naked doing the Macarena, all that would be much easier to stomach and honestly more plausible. People might watch the president do Staying Alive in his birthday suit in order to get the princess free. People might watch that, but people aren't going to watch an animal act. So let's look at some reviews and see why I'm so astronomically wrong to give this a 2. And how you just don't get it, bro. It's about the human condition. But we will be covering every single episode of Black Mirror because that's what we do. We don't skip episodes that we dislike. We don't skip episodes that we like. We do all of them in order to give you a complete view of the entire series. Okay, let's look at some reviews. There's 176 on IMDb alone, with a very respectable 7.6 aggregate review, which is pretty good. 9 out of 10, awesome. I've read so many negative reviews about this episode based on the implausibility of the whole plot to happen in real life. Yep, that's me. That it makes me want to leave this world. No, don't do that. Just like the kidnapper did. Yeah, the kidnapper does kill himself for some reason. Because it was all a ploy to let humans realize we're the real animals. Because it shows that people don't get the many points this story makes beyond its plausibility. For me, the most important statement is that the whole country and probably the whole world stops, freezes, just to watch the British PM have rank with a pig on live television. Yeah, I know. That's dumb. Nobody would do that. That's the point. They literally show it like it's like an apocalypse at the end where nobody's outside. They're all watching it live on television. Yeah, right. Like I said, we've had terrorists release videos before. The world doesn't just completely stop. So let's say the psyche of the human. Well, it's astonishing, all the negative reviews. There aren't that many. I mean, it's a 7.6, but yeah, there are some. And yeah, they watched it all the way to the end. And that's what this episode is about. We humans feel drawn to the forbidden, the unspeakable. That is true when it comes to, like, people fighting. The problem is he's doing something that nobody would actually want to see. That's the problem with this episode. If he was fighting another guy, that would make sense. There's UFC. I watch UFC sometimes, and I'll be honest, sometimes I'm watching UFC and I'm like, why the hell do I like this? This is wild. And honestly, the bloodier fights are the more popular ones. But even in UFC, there's some fights that I can't watch. I'm like, this is crazy. But the story catches the human nature perfectly. Nope. A bunch of nurses in a hospital watching a guy sleep with a pig? That's not what people do. What happens when you pass an accident? Yeah, right. You don't look? Seriously? Yeah, but he's not sleeping with the pig. If I saw a guy sleeping with the pig, I wouldn't look. We all look and try to get a glimpse. We just can't help ourselves. We are raised with a high curiosity. So this is the point they're making. But once again, they just choose the wrong incident to make this. If this was a car crash, if it was like he's going to drive his car off a cliff, would people watch him drive it off a cliff? Yeah, maybe some. Also, a lot of people would watch it later. That's another thing too. Like they would maybe secretly record it, or they would catch the news and see like a screenshot of it. Another reason this commentary doesn't work is the previous person was talking about a car accident, but people will glance at a car accident, and then if it's too horrible, they'll look away. Another thing that's unrealistic about this is they watch the entire thing. Like, it's not like they watch a part of it, then run away and go, oh, that's disgusting. They watch the entire thing, and they do get a little quieter towards the end. That's the thing. You look at a car crash, you go, wait, what's going on? And if it's really terrible, then you look away. They don't do that. They just stand there and watch it for like 30 minutes, which people wouldn't do. Effective satire needs to at least be remotely plausible. This guy rules. I gave this 3 out of 10, really? I give it a 2 out of 10. And all 3 points are for the actors. Yeah, the acting's fine. I must have strained mightily to make this thing something other than a half-assed attempt at a 45-minute Monty Python skit. This would be literally a Monty Python skit. You're going to do what? With a what? No. And not an especially good one at that. To call this both ham-fisted, myak, is to do a disservice to both pigs and fists. There's simply not even the slightest chance that any person in any position of leadership whatsoever would even begin to contemplate doing what this person, the PM of England, agreed to do. Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, they don't negotiate with terrorists. The United States doesn't, and neither does Britain. So, no. No chance whatsoever, period. Nor would anyone advising him even begin to think about suggesting it. Twisted, ironic ending was missed by all. Spoiler alert. No need to review the entire plot. This has been outlined by many other reviewers. Yeah, like TVAnthologyReviews. Actually, I didn't review the plot that much. The twist in the plot was not the timeline of the princess's release. It was that the PM had arranged this in order to feed his immeasurable ego. When we cut to the scene in the gymnasium 1 year after the incident, the PM is striking footballs with a carefree joviality, as he has become and will remain a beloved and cherished national treasure for decades to come. They have kind of a epilogue where it seems like he's still like popular, because no one really blames him because he did get the princess released. So what this guy's saying, I'll summarize it, so I don't have to read this whole thing, is that he thinks that the prime minister was the one who planned this thing the entire time. I have a different interpretation. I think it was planned possibly by his cabinet, since his cabinet kind of, towards the end of the episode, convinces him to do it. And this is when they're in their office and no one else is around, so I don't know why he would be organizing it. I think his cabinet seemed like they were sort of in on it, but this is never really said. And like I said, the episode's kind of haphazard anyways and not completely comprehensively written, so the fact that his cabinet just, especially this woman that works for him, just automatically just goes, you know what, you should do it. And she's literally whispering in his ear, you have to do it. You have to save the princess. Do it, do it, do it. And he's like, no. that he does it. So if anything, it's the cabinet. I wouldn't say the PM did it himself. Well, as you can see, it's a lot of 7s, 8s, and 9s. It really makes you think. Next up is episode 2 of season 1, 15 Million Merits, where in the future, people ride exercise bikes to gain credits. And then we also get a part where he goes on a singing competition. So it takes on things like American Idol too. That one will be released in 2 weeks. Check out our playlist for all episodes in order of Fear Itself, which we finished, Monsters, which we did all 72 episodes, Tales from the Dark Side, and Cowboy Bebop. Thanks a lot.
One I need for a long time, have an emotional stare at the wrong kind, without any attention, got that